Humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful and we're beautiful and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, you must become the victor. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an unfortunate reality that when I'm looking at media and entertainment that's being announced, like in the case of this video with Blade Runner 2099, I look at the director, I look at the cast, I look at the studio that's involved. And if it's Netflix, if it's Amazon Prime, I'm usually far, far, far more apprehensive. Now, is this some kind of just arbitrary prejudice against Hollywood in general? No, it's experience. I look at something like The Rings of Power and say, okay, Amazon has all this money, they have the rights to Lord of the Rings, and this is what they produced. That is about the blackest mark that you could receive, that you have all this money, that you have all this access to talent, and yet you make something like The Rings of Power. When it comes to Netflix, I mean, there are too many examples to elucidate in one video. I'd be here for an hour. We all know the track record of Netflix. In fact, there's a meme around it, that you have the manga, you have the anime adaptation, and then the Netflix adaptation, which is just take the character, turn it woman, and turn it black, and make her lame and gay. That's an unfortunate equation that has to be taken into account, like in the case of Blade Runner 2099. So I look at it and I go, okay, Blade Runner 2099, is this something that I'm going to be interested in? Well, on the surface of it, no. It just doesn't look all that appealing from the promotional material that I've seen. But I don't just go based on that gut instinct. I look at different pieces of media, I look at different articles and see what people are talking about it, confirming that, yeah, Amazon Prime Video is going to be involved, and looking at the different cast that's involved, looking at the different people that have, their hand in the cookie jar, seeing exactly where this is meant to, be targeted. Like, who is this for? Because oftentimes what they'll do is, instead of making their own work that's targeted towards a completely different audience, they'll just take the IP and say, okay, well, we're going to take this and now we're going to target it in a new direction for no reason. And in doing that, they very, very, very rarely find something that is, like, in their mind, the best of all worlds, which is, oh, the original fans will continue to watch it, and then we'll bring in all these new fans. No, that's very, very rarely the case. More often than not, what happens is the original fans look at it and go, this is garbage, and then the fans that they were trying to pander to don't exist, the phantom modern audience, and so you're ended up, you're in a position where you have nothing. So in the case of this particular show, Blade Runner 2099 says it won't arrive until the latter half of 2025. That's fine. But the cast, like for example, Michelle Yeoh, she's been involved in a lot of woke series. She's been involved in a lot of characters and things that I find to be degrading to the particular IP. So when I see her, I'm a little bit apprehensive. If you want an example of that, you look no further than Star Trek. Yeah. Star Trek Discovery, to be specific. So going through this, it says, though the full ensemble cast is unknown, Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh has been tapped to play the lead role in Blade Runner 2099. So, according to Screen Rant, it's confirmed that she's the lead character. So for me, that's going to be a hard no. Now, I know some people say, well, but you don't know. True, it could be a masterpiece. It could be that Amazon just completely obliterates their reputation. But here's the thing. I don't trust them to do female leads. I watched what they did to Galadriel. And this is something that people need to understand. That it's not a zero-sum game. I don't have to come here and explain myself and why I think what I think in the privacy of my own home. I'm articulating it so that it's clear. But what you understand, or what you should understand if you're in Hollywood, if you're one of these executives, taking an IP from the past, Blade Runner, very popular. Harrison Ford made that huge. You know, he helped to make that one of the iconic movies of the past. You tried again with Blade Runner 2049. Didn't do as well. It didn't do as well. It was a box office flop. So now it's coming onto Amazon Prime Video directly. Okay? Instead of actually making an attempt to revive it, you're just using the name. And you've picked a female lead, which for me is always a sign of a series in decline. It just is. Unless that series started with a female character, I think it's a bad sign. Now, you can feel free to disagree with me. You can articulate why you think that is. But I think that very clearly, reality is on my side. I don't know if any of you remember a little-known game called Gears of War 5. Gears of War 5 is a game that Gears of War, in fact, is a franchise that I loved. I thought it was fun. It was messy. It was sort of like a mix between Halo and Doom a little bit. It's not a one-for-one comparison, but, there was a lot of gore and masculinity and shooting, and that's my type of game. That's my jam. So then they decide to make 4 of them. I think one of them, maybe doesn't belong there. One of those games is maybe worse than the others. But at the end of the day, you've got 4 of them that are, sort of in the same realm. And then number 5 goes in a completely different direction and adopts a female lead. And now you don't hear about the series anymore because it was a commercial and financial flop. I mean, it was a critical failure. That is what I'm worried about when I see things like this. That they're going to take something that I used to appreciate, that I used to like, and ultimately they're going to piss it down the drain. Now, some people say, well, that's just an unwarranted fear. Well, no, it's not. Some of you may argue, oh, it's problematic. It's sex. I've had people say that before. They've messaged me, how can you say that about women? How can you have that sort of view? Well, there are definite examples of the reverse. Except they're not. I've never seen them do the reverse. I've never seen them take a successful female lead and then add in a male character to play it. Or to change Tomb Raider to be about a new male character because we want to change things. No, because when it's a female character and the series is successful, they know not to do that. Now, they've tried something like a half measure with Lara Croft. Lara Croft, her new design, I think looks terrible. I think it looks awful. I think they took a successful, iconic look, and I think they reduced it down to this more, quote-unquote, realistic. But the thing is, people don't want realism from their games. They don't. They don't want realism from their games. They want the fantasy. They want the adventure. They want James Bond to be James Bond. If James Bond puts on weight and he's like, oh man, I'm so old and I've got arthritis and, imagine a James Bond scene where, he pulls up in the Aston Martin and he goes upstairs to get with a girl and he's like, I just can't get it up. Hold on. I have to get my erectile dysfunction meds. I have to get my Viagra. You know? It's like nobody wants that. They want James Bond to be strong, masculine, and virile. That's what people want. They want him to be the super spy. They don't want him to be like, oh, I have to read these documents from MI6. Let me pull up my glasses. Like, nobody wants realism in their fantasy and media, and yet that seems to be all that people put in there. They want to put this realism in there. That we're going to add this level of authenticity by taking the Nolan route and removing all of the, the fantasy out of it, all of the mystery, all of the, entertainment aspect. And the answer to that should be no, because it's so obviously a flaw. I don't know what these people are thinking. I don't know why they continue to make the same mistakes. It just is something that I've noticed. So I talk about it and I articulate it. And so am I excited for Blade Runner 2099? No, not really. I've not seen anything that's made me go, wow, this looks incredible. In fact, just the opposite. The more that I hearing that it has a female lead and that female lead was in Star Trek Discovery, yeah, that's not great. And then you've got Jordan Yao is Euphoria star Hunter Schafer. Euphoria. I thought, look, this may be a controversial opinion. I thought Euphoria was absolute garbage. I thought that was absolute trash. I thought that was horrendous. So that's another equation. When I see, somebody from Euphoria is joining, yeah, I look at that and I go, huh, that's interesting. Maybe not for me. And the thing is, a lot of people will say something like this. Wait, I'm not the target audience? And I think this is so particularly stupid because the question then becomes, why did you use the name Blade Runner? If I'm not the target audience, as somebody who was a fan of the original Blade Runner, if I'm not the target audience, then who is? People who aren't fans of Blade Runner? People who are new to Blade Runner? Well, then why? Then why would you call it Blade Runner? Why would you use the name and then target it to another audience? See, I think people like this are retarded. I do. I think that they like to be contrarian. They like to post stuff on the internet like this in order to seem edgy or, I'm making fun of the chuds who are getting upset at this. But the reality is that it makes no logical sense. Why would you make something and then put a name on it and then target it towards people other than those who would be inclined to like it? Now, I'm all for bringing in new people, but when you bring in new people, they should be fans of what once was. So, for example, there's a reason why Star Trek Discovery is being retconned from the Star Wars canon. Because it was abysmal. It was terrible. Why did that series exist? Well, Star Trek Discovery existed because they wanted to pander to a new modern audience. They wanted to pander to games journalists and other freaks and other degenerates, fetishists, and other unsavory, demonic, deviant scum. And they did. And it flopped. And it didn't do well. It wasn't received well. It was an abomination. And now it's not even part of the Star Trek canon. That's the reality. So if you want to know why I think the things I think, how I come to the conclusions that I make, I hope that this was illuminating. Because I think that we all think something similar as we look at media. We judge it based on who's making it, why it's being made. Is this a passion project or a cash grab? Is it Netflix or Amazon, or is it a studio with actual integrity? Who are the stars? Who are the leads? We look at all this information now, and no, we're not just excited anymore, because the reality is, and I'll end on this, Hollywood has taken the joy and the magic out of entertainment. So has the gaming industry, so has the comic industry, and that's why we look to foreign influencers and investors and entertainers to bring us that same sort of magic and joy. It's why manga and anime have absolutely exploded. Because people like that culture and they like their creativity, and it's something that we've lost. We in the US, we need to make entertainment great again. Make entertainment great again. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.